to our 3 o'clock media panel. We have our distinguished guests up here, Joel Valenzuela from Dashforce, Jamie Redmond from Bitcoin.com, Ernest Hancock from Freedom's Phoenix, Ian Freeman from Free Talk Live, and Danny Sessom from The Crypto Show. Please give a warm welcome to our panelists. So before we get started, we're gonna take some questions, and so if you have a question, just raise your hand. Make sure that you get my attention, and I'll walk around to you. But I'd like to open up. Would one of you like to volunteer to just kind of open up and talk about the importance of media right now for Bitcoin and blockchain?
Sure. I'm Ian Freeman with Free Talk Live. We got into cryptocurrency way back in 2011. We were doing still doing a syndicated talk radio show. It's currently heard on over 160 stations from coast to coast. And so one of our listeners way back then was Roger Ver. How many of you have heard that name before? Okay, so Roger was a listener and a sponsor of Free Talk Live before he found Bitcoin, and he found out about Bitcoin because we talked about it on the radio, and we didn't catch the vision for it at the time. We were just kind of talking about it. I think it was like the Silk Road or one of those stories way back, and we didn't, we thought, oh, this sounds kind of cool, but it didn't really catch our interest as far as we need to buy this thing. Roger saw the vision for what Bitcoin could be. And of course, that's when I think he spent like 50 grand of his own money at that time to purchase Bitcoin at like $1 a piece or something like that. And now he's known as Bitcoin Jesus, and he's the sponsor of this event for Bitcoin.com today. So that's the importance right there of, pro-freedom, cryptocurrency, positive media, putting the word out there about Bitcoin and these other great cryptocurrencies to average folks. And you never know when you're going to meet that next Roger Ver.
We're going with. And what was the question? I'm sorry. The importance of media. I guess what we use it for is to try to do good things and reach out to less fortunate people and get them to realize that there's value in cryptocurrency, because most of the people in the general public don't really know what cryptocurrency is, and we're using it constantly to try to help Free Ross or just whatever charity it is. So we have the platform. Why not talk about it? And that's where we focus it on. And so like with the hurricane, what we just did, we're out there meeting all these people that have no idea what cryptocurrency is, and we're there telling them, yeah, we don't even accept the dollar. We're only accepting cryptocurrency, and these are the things that we're able to give to you with this stuff. So yes, it has value, and we'll show them how to download a wallet or whatever. And at the same time, we're able to point out that, look around you, it's your neighbors, it's your friends, everybody, that's who's helping you. It's not the government that's stepping up and helping you. It's, Joe Bass Boat or whoever, or, Harlan Dietrich with the Dash Boat showing up to do something, so.
Since the late 80s, my wife and I and our 4 little children I got 11 little grandchildren. I'm 56. I was born in 61, graduated high school 79. So I was my whole life, I was brought up on the BS. And it became very clear to me, Watergate comes, Iran-Contra, you have all kinds of scandals, economic turmoil, on and on and on and on. By the time I became of age and I started looking in the media to see, I thought I was doing good by watching the news, ABC, NBC, CBS. I mean, you just flip through. It's the same 5 stories, in the same order. You're going, man, something is wrong. Now I know why they call it television programming, okay? Well, our advocacy was for the features of freedom. That's why the show is Declare Your Independence, because the Declaration of Independence made it really clear. The purpose of government was to defend individual rights, or it was time to alter or abolish. So Bitcoin, to me, was not that I thought it was cool or tech. I didn't understand that much anyway. I was looking at, for the past 8 whatever years, since I've been covering it since like 09, 10. I mean, back 10,000 Bitcoin pizzas, man. We were doing, I got $3 Casatius coins. I mean, that kind of thing. Well, I got one, so. But they kept that one. So what happened is I go, Does it serve freedom? This is what my media presence is. This is what all my activism was for. This is what all of our multimedia infrastructure of going was individual freedom. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, so on, represented that. So I promote the decentralization of everything. That's what all this pirate stuff is about. That's us. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But my whole thing is the media is there as it can be for bad guys. It can serve all their crap, or it could be for the empowerment of the individual. That's what we are focused on. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the services that it provides to individuals, that is what we emphasize, not so much as a brand or we care about, it's the features. That's what gives it its value. Peter Schiff and I go on about it, man. I'm going, you want to know its intrinsic value? It's how much gold and silver I'm willing to give up for what it does for me. That's what. Features.
Yeah, I kind of on the same lines with the freedom aspect. I come from a anarcho-capitalist type of libertarian background, and I noticed that Bitcoin was kind of a very deep separation from money and state. So I decided I like to write, and I like to make that clear to people in the most down-to-earth way, and seeing how Bitcoin kind of made things separated from the state, I believe that it can bring forth ideas that separate everything from the state. And that's my ultimate goal, is to tell people how to do that in the most simplistic fashion. I write better than I talk, so.
Yeah, so I think the role of media in the cryptocurrency space is really important because more than anything, these tools are part of distributed networks. Networks meaning people. And if people don't know what tools are available to them, those tools and their functionality suffers in turn, right? And we're talking, in my view, one of the most important moments of human history was when the Bitcoin white paper came out, right? This could change the course of the world of now everyone can transmit value without having to resort to a centralized third party. And so many people just don't quite grasp that not only is this super important, but you can do it now. Like, I don't have a bank account. I live entirely off of cryptocurrency. And it's not necessarily easy for me, but it's possible. And the fact that that's possible for me today means it will be very possible and very easy for people in the near future. But who cares if no one knows about it, right? So that's one reason I really work hard to promote Dash, because that, in my view, is going to be something that's going to be able to lift a lot of people out of poverty from being able to use this instead of traditional money. And like, for example, 3 of us on this panel here are funded by the Dash Network because it has a mechanism there to be able to push out to be able to fund other people in the ecosystem that are necessary to make this thing grow. And I mean, that's why we're here, is because we provide, I hope so, I mean, unless I'm doing my whole life wrong, but I hope that we all provide value to humanity by letting the rest of the world know what amazing tools for world change we already have at our disposal.
Thank you, gentlemen. All great points. And so I'll take some questions now. If you have a question, raise your hand and I'll walk around to you. 1, 2. Okay, we'll start with 2.
So there's a saying that gets passed around a lot, I think, in the cryptocurrency, space. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And I kind of see that, at least in the mainstream media now, we're kind of in the laughing at Bitcoin / fighting, against cryptocurrencies in general space. Do you think that means that things are going to get worse as far as government crackdowns, as far as things like that, before cryptocurrencies, succeed in becoming mainstream? Do you think that things are going to get worse before they get better, I guess?
Yeah, so I'll give my quick thought on that first. I think we're still at the kind of ignore / laugh stage. There hasn't been too much of a meaningful pushback yet, which is kind of a little bit worrying. I mean, but it is coming at some point, I'm sure. I know just a couple weeks ago there was a Dash conference in Venezuela that had 350 people there, and the fact that there's no pushback against that means we're still pretty much in the early stages. But yeah, I think next few years, once it starts to become a little bit less of just a tool for people like us in here, the crypto nerds, once it becomes where average people who don't necessarily care about this are starting to use it, that's when we'll see a little bit more heat, I think.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Same question, or you won't go for another?
Yeah, if you have thoughts, go ahead.
I'm all set.
I believe we're kind of at a small tipping point right now, where a little more mainstream adoption is happening. I also believe the government will do everything they can do to try to shut it down, and they are going to do anything they have the power to do and use all their resources to try. I have no doubt in my mind that they will do that. They won't succeed.
This is something that it's been a lot of things like this, a lot of new tech, and computers and communication. I'm old enough that I've seen it come and go. And this is what they always do. They're going to fight the crap out of you until you join their version of it. That's what's going to happen. The thing is that's why I want the philosophy in and us understand what not to do. Because this is the win. It's not them adopting us or us adopting them or whatever. It's a mindset that we have. Cryptocurrency provides for you the ability to bank without a permission. You can do whatever you want. It can't be stopped. So it promotes this. Quit going to the blue pages. Now, for those of you young guys that don't know, there used to be white pages that in the front had blue pages, okay? Those blue pages, you have the yellow pages, the white pages, the blue pages. Anybody remember blue pages? Thank you, God. The blue pages were all the departments of government. You would go there and you'd have an idea. I want to open a Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to the blue pages and find the department of let me have a permission slip to do it, okay? So you go there and you'd actually think, and a lot of people are thinking this way in the space. Well, I don't want to fight them. Well, we have Morpheus, a good friend of mine, Thomas Costanzo, who was a sales manager for a couple of years for Freedom's Phoenix, is sitting in jail right now, because he traded Bitcoin. Well, that trial's coming up in December. We'll see what happens. Theo Chino, challenging the bit license and so on. We're making a big woohoo out of that. So my thing is where the win is us not thinking we got to fight them. Is that we don't need to go to the blue pages. We don't need to ask a permission slip. This is what this cryptocurrency has done. It's opened up our mind that you don't need a permission slip. You just do it, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. That's what's freaking them out. Just go to the blue pages and ignore them.
Generally a good strategy, although, as you pointed out, with some people, they're going to put, some folks in a cage. So it's going to be a messy, process trying to get from here to where we want to be, which is large, widespread cryptocurrency acceptance. If you feel like you're fighting, if you feel like, and because I agree with Ernie, you shouldn't be fighting. We should just be living as free as possible and, doing what's right. If you feel like you're losing this thing, then I would recommend you pick up that yellow flyer on the seat there, because that's all about New Hampshire and how it is that if you get together with other cryptocurrency users who also care about freedom, as I think all of us do, then you can actually have a better effect. So we actually had the reverse of the bit license, which you might have heard about out of New York. That the reverse happened in New Hampshire this year, where the governor and the legislature passed a bill that actually protects cryptocurrency-only businesses from being regulated as money transmitters. So that doesn't happen in New Hampshire. And we did that because we've actually got libertarian cryptocurrency activists who've moved to the same geographic area who've become very, very successful at working with the state representatives. We have state reps and state senators who are Bitcoin users. So how many of you guys have that in your state? Didn't think so. So yeah, we've actually made some real significant progress, and we can have more of it as more people move to New Hampshire.
I guess I'll just quote Roger Ver. This is to unbank the banked and bank the unbanked, or vice versa. And I'm looking forward to the day that the dollar is struggling for acceptance.
Thank you. We have a question here. Who's next? No one. Okay.
Hi, I'm Ken Bozak. Just wanted to say thank you for all 5 of you taking your time out for us today. My question for you is your thoughts on Bitcoin forking and the possibility of Bitcoin, like Bitcoin Gold, being Bitcoin, or the possibility of the dominant chain becoming something else, like Bitcoin Gold is Bitcoin, as the internet's been chanting nonstop. Your thoughts on that?
I don't really care. I mean, whatever rises to the top, that's what it'll be, and if it doesn't, then some other coin will take its place.
As a media person, this is one of the biggest challenges, I think, is trying to communicate to the average person, what all of this means. Danny, you host the crypto show, so your audience is more likely to be pretty oriented towards cryptocurrency. My show is a general audience talk show. We're on 160 radio stations, so every time we talk about Bitcoin, we've got to explain what it is, because there's always somebody new getting in their car at the airport, turning on the radio and hearing for the first time about crypto from our show. So we always have to keep that in mind when we're explaining it, which means we have to re-explain over and over again, okay, well, coming up in 2 weeks, blah, 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 and what happened in August, and just kind of try to recap for everybody out there to bring them up to speed. It is no fun trying to explain to somebody, well, yeah, so there's this cool thing called Bitcoin. Oh, and then there was Bitcoin Cash, and now Bitcoin Gold, and then the SegWit 2X, and then Bitcoin Silver is coming out in December, apparently. And so it just gets a little bit complicated,
Bitcoin mud, by the way.
Anything. I mean, it's just, how do you communicate this effectively to people about how this is such a great idea when moment to moment it's changing? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but as far as, marketing is concerned, keeping things simple is really important, and these constant forks are a huge challenge to just try to get people to understand what's going on. It's hard.
Forking's not, to me, in the way I explain it, forking's not a bug; it's a feature. My concept is, who do you allow to determine what is and isn't money, and what is and isn't good, and what it does and doesn't work? And I remember it was a couple of years ago at Texas Bitcoin Conference. We're at the Willie Nelson Amphitheater, and it was Sunday morning, and we're sitting up on stage, and Paul was talking to me about something. There was an attorney on the other side, and we're explaining the features and about Uber and what happens when they start taking crypto and they don't have to report and they don't get the percentages taken, blah, 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 blah. These which are coming. Well, then he goes, well, let's go to the lawyer. And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. If I have to give a crap what the lawyer says or what some politician says, then it's the wrong tech. What I'm looking for is what you say, what you want, what I want. The free market will determine. There needs to be these alternative coins or altcoins, or heck, not even alt. I mean, a lot of them, they're just doing something different. This is what makes this viable. If you don't have these changes in the market pick, without government intervention, you are not going to get what you want. I guarantee it. So stop thinking that way. Let the free market work. Let this infancy happen. Let it develop. Let it evolve. And the second we start worrying about what politicians and lawyers say, we already lost.
I also think forking is a feature, and I believe Bitcoin originally started as a free market type of money instrument. But I think that the altcoins and the forks and stuff is going to let the free market decide in the end and the overall, and that's the way that it should be. And that's the way it started, and that's the way it should be. So the control is really still not there for people.
Well, it is a little bit refreshing for me to be involved with Dash that has a good consensus mechanism, so I don't really have to worry in my own personal life about Bitcoin forks. But I do think, in general, the concept is, again, a little bit of turbulence right now, but but forks are freedom, right? And with it comes everything that is freedom, right? So first, you don't have to argue about Bitcoin. You can have your Bitcoin, your version of Bitcoin, whatever it is in your mind that you think Bitcoin should be, you can have it right now. The other side of it is whatever you do, you have to be able to take personal responsibility for the consequences of your actions. And if you are using a version of Bitcoin that no one wants to use, you lose out on the cooperative network effects that is like the free market. The free market is freedom, but it's also market, which is interconnectivity. So I think what's going to happen, you have a lot of people are going to try their own, be your own Bitcoin. Everyone's going to be their own Bitcoin. There's going to be a million different kind of coins. People are going to fight over it. And then eventually all that like personal preference and virtue signaling or whatever they got going on is going to die down based on cold hard reality when people stop speculating about Bitcoin and start relying on it for their lives. Once you rely on it for your life, your personal tastes are just not going to matter anymore because you use what works. What works might be something that doesn't work best, but it works the most in getting the most people to use it, which therefore makes it work best. So it's one of those things, it's one of those headaches you just have to deal with, but freedom has a cost. And if the cost of true financial freedom is having to pick which Bitcoin tilt is the one that you want on the logo, then that's a low price to pay for financial freedom.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to our next question. In the meantime, are there others to go in the queue? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start by saying I'm pro-government, which is probably going to get some boos, but I think I'm curious from a media perspective. Obviously, I think winter is coming for many of these ICOs. These are just awful companies, no real experience running a business. I think token velocity inside of these networks are going to get smashed because they haven't thought about tokenomics. So what does that look like from a media perspective in terms of framing this as these are just really bad funding mechanisms, or like these ICOs were just all terrible investments? And I think it's going to massively change the perception of what cryptocurrency is. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with that?
Yes, of course there's always going to be any bad news about the crypto space will cause a bunch of people who hated crypto to begin with to just pile on and just, this is terrible. As far as our job in communicating the truth of the matter is, as much as I hate to say it like this, ICOs are also freedom, right? You can just say, I want to raise money, and then you can do it. And that means that there's a lot of people that just raise money and never deliver on that. But that, again, with the freedom comes the responsibility. Just because you can now have a platform for just like unlimited power, unlimited cash, now you have to find a mechanism of self-regulation, right? You have to find a way to make sure you're not just basically defrauding people. Because if you don't, something like, again, government will move in and they will regulate you. And in my view, they will not do a good job of it or a perfect job. It'll be government's a crude tool, right? A hammer sees everything as a nail. The hammer's coming unless you get your house in order. So I think it's important to communicate that ICOs are potential, and what happens to that potential is up to the rest of us.
Just in the real quick, gentlemen, excuse me. Just in the interest of time, you may not all need to answer every question. So if you have something to say, by all means, say it.
I think the ICO hype is kind of crazy right now, but I don't think the government should step in. I think it's the choice of the market and the people. If you want to invest in a fraud, then you haven't done the research, and that's your responsibility. It's not the government to come in, or my cousin or my family to tell me that I did something wrong. I need to research upon that, and that's my own responsibility.
Yeah, the argument is that government is there to protect people that either didn't, couldn't, wouldn't, whatever. And you got to define what that is. You got to look and you go, all right, what did I protect them from? Being foolish. You're not allowed to be stupid. That's one of the things, is the freedom to be stupid. And you get it to, maybe I wanted to lose the money. Maybe I wanted to learn something. My son started mining. I'm going, you're better off just to freaking buy the crypto. But you're going to learn a lot. that you should have bought the crypto, okay? So this is, these ICOs, I see them kind of go, oh, I know what's going to happen. All the Blue Page leaders are going to be looking for another department of Blue Page to go save them and get my money back if they've screwed me. Well, you didn't learn anything. Well, what happened? Mt. Gox was the best thing that ever happened early on in Bitcoin. Why? What did everybody learn? Hold your freaking keys. Don't be a moron. You know, what everybody learned from all these ICOs? Know what the hell you're doing, and don't do everything that Joby Weeks. I mean, you know, some friends say. You know, Joey's a good friend, but he's always like, yeah, do this one. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's all right. But you know, it's guys like that. They're enthusiastic, and he wants you need to get. Well, yeah, some of the guys make a bunch, you know, right off. Well, they're the pump and dump people. A lot of people here. I mean, years ago there was pump and dump scams of blah 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 blah. Tone Vay's good friend. He was staying at my home last week. He comes in, he's going, scam coins, they're all scam coins, scam coin, scam coin, scam coin. I go, can you just limit it to a few or the real scam coins so that it actually means something when you say it? You know, I'm going, I need Tone to tell me when there are real scam coins, but don't sit there and just tell every single one is, and who decides? The government? If we don't take responsibility for our own, you know, decisions, well, you know, that's another problem. Freedom's the answer. What's the question?
I'll keep this one short. With or without government regulation, there are always going to be bad investments, whether it's, you know, somebody is trying to get you to sign on to their business or a Kickstarter that ultimately was a scam or an ICO. That's just going to happen. And one thing's for sure, the government isn't going to stop this.
Hi, I have a question. First off, I find that explaining cryptocurrencies to people that are ignorant or just not paying attention, it's like talking to someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. They keep asking, what is it, what is it, what is it, how does it work, how does it work, how does it work? And no matter how much you explain it to them, they still don't understand it. What my question is what would be the best way to go about explaining it to somebody that doesn't necessarily know about it or isn't crypto savvy?
And they want to know.
Yeah, I would say if you're having trouble communicating with somebody, maybe you need to turn them over to another person. Like, you know, find something in the media, Bitcoin.com, or, you know, one of these shows or articles to where you can point that person to if they're honestly interested in learning. Sometimes, if it's like a family member or a friend, they know about you, they know your faults, they know the mistakes you've made, and they may not be taking you too seriously in that particular case. And also keep in mind that not everybody's ready for this. Not everybody is going to be a good prospect. So ultimately, we don't need everybody in the world to come on board with this idea, but, you know, 5 to 10% would be huge. So if you are running up against a brick wall, just move on to the next person.
I'm that brick wall, okay? I get, you know, I've been doing this from the beginning. What has it been, 8 years more? I mean, a long time. And I'm going, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, so finally, just this in the past few months, 5-6 months ago, Colin Cantrell from Nexus, he lives in the Valley, I live in Phoenix, and we had him on the show. One day he spent 18 hours there. It edited down to a 9-hour podcast. Oh, I'm getting it today, okay? You want me to say Nexus is better than Bitcoin? Well, first I got to know what Bitcoin is, okay? So get to the whiteboard, all right? Here we go. Now I can say I have a pretty good understanding. This is the problem from a media guy. You guys suck at explaining Bitcoin, okay? I've had Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, Eric Voorhees, Roger Ver, Vitalik Buterin, you know, you name them, they've been on. Paul Snow, Paul Puey. I mean, for years I have them on over and over. Patrick Byrne, on and on and on and on. Explain this to me. Blah, 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 and my head hurts, okay? I can do it in 5 minutes. Took me 8 years. But the thing is that there's some of the things, and I could do it. But my point is that you're not good at explaining it to someone that doesn't understand. And a lot of times, the people that try to explain it, they don't really understand it themselves. And when I ask them, and I go, okay, well, what about, you know, it's like crypto, man, dude, you know. And if you need to understand, you need a consultant. You need to hire me to do it for you because you're too stupid, you know. No, it's not that difficult. The problem has been is when it goes in, Morpheus is in jail for doing, trading, one of the guys in Arizona. Theo Chino comes from New York and talks to his legal team, wants to explain it to him. I had talked to him the day before, had him on the show. I go, no, you shouldn't do this. I'll go talk to him. No, got to do it. All right, fine. Went in and they're like, what the hell just happened? You're your own worst enemy. It is simpler, but you need to learn, work on your communication skills, or use words that they understand. I can do it now, but it took 8 years. So you're blaming, you're going, well, that guy's too stupid. No, you weren't able to explain it to him. You're a bad teacher, or they were too stupid. I mean, that's possible.
I try to explain Bitcoin in the most simplistic way that you can. I also try to make it relatable to things like you have the internet on your belt, all the time. You didn't realize that like 10 years ago. Kind of people bank all the time on their iPhones and stuff like that. So people are doing things in a similar fashion, but just there's just a little more to Bitcoin, and then you have to explain it further and stuff. So I try to make it more relatable, more down to earth.
Yeah, so I find the obviously simpler explanations work. The thing about simple explanations is the simpler you make it, the more you have to know about it to actually condense it, and you have to actually understand what you're explaining. Think about the things like, who asks you to explain how a car works? Who knows the intricate mechanics of the internal combustion engine? Like, how can we? A lot of times people are asking sometimes really simple questions, like, how does the car work? Well, we put gas in here, it burns, and then that turns the motors and it goes. Like, sometimes that's all they need to know. But if they're asking those deep questions, you better be an auto mechanic to know exactly and be able to explain it. Generally speaking, I think that mostly why people don't get it when you explain crypto to them is because you're answering the wrong questions. It sometimes is the question that they asked, but they didn't really ask that. They wanted to know. They had a different thing. Like, well, what is this? Or what's it backed by? That always, that one in particular, I mean, it's not really backed by anything, but the deeper question a lot of times they're trying to ask is, why is this valuable? Why are people able to pay real money in order to get this? And then sometimes you have to go into why they put value behind real money before you go into why does this have value.
Hey guys, I had a follow-up question on the topic of hard forks, like being like a way of freedom, and I wanted to ask about how like consensus can drive innovation, and with the option of being able to do a fork, you see maybe.
Hold the microphone not closer. It's harder to see.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, so the question I'm asking is a follow-up to earlier talking about the freedom that lies in like hard forks. So my question is, how is innovation like driven through consensus? And so with us building like decentralized systems, but then not following through with consensus and like forking instead, like if forks provide freedom, like do y'all see what I'm kind of trying to ask here? Like if the innovation can come out of consensus, or if the people aren't, like the core team is not in agreement, if the best answer is always going to be a hard fork rather than trying to find consensus.
Oh, I think I get what you're talking about. Basically, sometimes you can hard fork your way away from innovation because a lot of times innovation comes through limitation, right? What they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So if any time you disagree with someone on a micro feature, you just fork off again, you don't get anywhere because you haven't actually solved a thing. Sometimes you need to hash things out to actually find the best solution. Sometimes part of your personal opinion hard fork, sometimes your personal opinion is wrong, right? And you have to sort of hash that out to sort of figure it out. I think generally, I like failure a whole lot because it answers a lot of questions, right? So if you got Bitcoin, and then you got Bitcoin 12 versions. 9 to 11 of them have to fail for people to learn from those mistakes and then bundle back into the remaining 1 to 3 or whatever. So, does that answer at all what you're talking about?
You're exactly right. This is, everybody's so concerned about, well, how do you get consensus and how come it's not working? And if we only did it and you're doing it wrong, okay? I'm so sick of that. You're doing it wrong. Well, then you do it. What's your problem? Anybody can make a crypto. Hell, the guy's going, hey, we just changed the parameter. You can get your crypto. I get 4-minute abs. So this is, these are features. And this is one thing that I don't think people really realize. My thing is that it's easier for me because I got grandchildren. Man, that's one thing. You want to do it, you got to explain it to grandkids, so they can understand it. And what am I explaining to them? Not all the little details and so on. It's the philosophy behind it. What are people trying to do? A 5-year-old's not going to understand all this stuff, but they do understand why. If you can explain to them just a simple whys.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Me either.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, so first, just a quick plug. I'm currently working on a project that's an open source AI public defender, building that to be decentralized. So thought that would put a smile on some of you guys' faces. Called the Tubman Project.
Better than public defenders now.
Yeah, that's not saying too much. But when do you think we'll start seeing a lot of kind of decentralized and blockchain technology apps move outside of the financial realm and into some other things that might be helpful for people's lives?
Are they not already? Ask the guy right behind you.
Yeah, I'm just the media. I report on stuff, so I have no idea.
I have an opinion. It's going to already happen. I just was watching Monday Night Football, Thursday something. I'm watching some football. And the World Series last night, it happened too. IBM in the cloud with blockchain. Everything's blockchain. So it's happening now. They're going to put everything on blockchains. But you have to understand what we were talking about, the philosophy of why. Why would you put this? Is it to enslave me? Is it to make me freer? Is it more convenient? Does it make it cheaper? It's blockchain. It's the philosophy. And I got to pimp, the Pirates Without Borders thing, it's all about the promotion of the decentralization of everything. And cryptocurrency, the second letter of Captain Mark you see in there is all about this. Why?
I think we're in the very early stages right now. I think it's coming eventually, but Bitcoin and things of this nature, even some things in the early internet, even the internet itself, is pretty much the beginning. And I think it's going to a few generations away. I still think we're pretty far away, and we're just in the beginning of all this.
Yeah, so this is where the job of the media is to go find what's happening already. I think it's way sooner than probably anyone else up here might say. But that's also because, since, 2014 or 15, Dash has operated as a decentralized autonomous organization and has operated pretty well. And that's just one example of a fully functioning DAO. But how soon is it going to be before someone decides to start another company that they're not going to make it as a company? They're going to make it as a DAO. And then, yes, decentralized autonomous organization. It means an organization that's decentralized and no one body controls it. Autonomous means it self-runs. An organization meaning it's a group of people, right? And so pretty soon a lot of things are going to be organized this way. And then the big thing that's coming down the pipeline much sooner than you might think is decentralized governance. And not just governance of crypto things, but governance over people. And governance and government, as we understand it as the state, right, are two separate things, right? In the future, I think it'll be depending on maybe the very near future, it'll be a kind of like a choose your own government kind of thing, or you choose or none at all. And that becomes very possible once you have stuff that's like, if government followed its own rules, it wouldn't be nearly as bad as it is. The problem is it doesn't. You have that human effort. If it didn't if it followed its own rules and it allowed you to opt out, no one here would have a problem with government. The problem is those two things are a factor. But once you can have a system that is just written into the code that it has to follow its own rules, it's completely transparent, right? No shady deals, no bailouts, none of that kind of stuff. And you can voluntarily participate in whatever system fits you. That's going to be amazing. And that's not like 15 years down the road, it's 10 or fewer. I mean, this is coming up very quickly.
Guys, I want to say that the Texas Bitcoin Conference wouldn't have anywhere near its cachet if it wasn't for a lot of the guys that are sitting here on the stage. The mainstream media is a huge and massive problem, a huge tool of the state. Anyone want to argue with that?
The lamestream media.
The lamestream. And these are some guys who are standing in opposition and speaking their mind and covering topics nobody else is brave enough to touch. So I want everybody to give them a big hand. And
Thank you very much. That's it.